So we are in the midst of or at the end of a series around the power of now. Learning to live in the moment. Now, how many of us have heard this before? Maybe once or twice. How many of us practice? Well, we're all in practice, right? We're all trying to learn how to be present with what is. I find over and over that my mind wants to go all kinds of places. And so the practice is simply bringing it back to the breath, bringing it back to this moment, being present with what is right now. This wonderful idea of living in the stillness of the divine presence. You see, we are surrounded with activity, with stimuli, with all kinds of things. And I know for me, I best summarize this journey as learning to move out of the reactive mind into the presence. You see, so often what I notice is that life's happening and I'm stimulated by it and I'm always in reaction to it. And I find that there's a part of me that wants to take every experience in life and categorize it. I want to name it as good or bad. I want to name it as positive or negative. I want to name it in some way, and I want to frame it in such a way that says, I like this, I don't like this. And now I only want what I like. Now, I know you guys don't do this. I just like to have my confessional moments with you while you're here and available. Right? We're reacting. Oh, wonderful news. Oh, bad news. Oh, da, 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 da. And then we may even plug into the world around us that will support us in knowing what bad news is happening in any given moment. And ain't it awful. And if we're not careful, we begin to perceive that as reality. We think that is what's real. In fact, you may have well-meaning, loving friends, as I do, that will encourage you to be realistic. Right? You're saying wonderful things like, I know that the universe is working for my highest good, always working together to bring forth my greatest expression of life. And your well-meaning friends will say, you know how they do that smile. You might want to be a little more realistic. Which is, please join me in my limited version of reality, is what they're really saying, right? So I'm going to suggest to you, along with the masters through the ages, that there is another way of experiencing reality. The great spiritual teachers through the ages have helped us to understand that there is a transcendent reality that is not bound by the effects. Jesus said unto us, judge by righteous judgment. Don't judge by appearances. Which was to say, move into another dimension of awareness and understanding. I'm going to guess that everyone in this room at one time or another has had an experience of a transcendent reality. A moment when time began to stand still and you began to experience your connection with all of life, to feel in that divine flow, to have that sense of being. You had that sense of wellness. You had that sense of knowing. Now, it may have been a nanosecond, but you've had it. And then we move back into our normal reactive way of being and go, wow, that was good. Let's just judge everything, right? Right, but we've all had this experience. So the master teachers through the ages have helped us to understand that there is a way of being, there is a way of experiencing a larger reality. Jesus spoke to it as the kingdom of heaven, which I believe is saying there is a consciousness and a way of understanding. You see, some of us have grown up believing that heaven was a resort destination. All included. You get the full package. And if you can get there, it's a pretty sweet package. Conversely, there's another destination that's not so great. I would suggest to you that rather than destinations, perhaps masters are teaching us about a way of being. That we can experience this dimension of transcendence right here and right now. I believe that what Jesus was trying to help us to understand is how to do that. I believe that Krishna was trying to help us to understand how to be in that divine flow, how to live from our Dharma, how to live from that place of awareness and understanding. I believe what Buddha was trying to help us understand is that it is our clutching, it is our grasping, and it is our reactive mind that is preventing us from experiencing nirvana. All of these are different names, different ways of saying it, but they are all speaking to a transcendent reality that is not bound by conditions. So in reading Eckhart Tolle, I was reminded of a wonderful parable. I know you all know it, because I know, like me, you spend your Saturday nights reading your Bible, getting brushed up on your parables, lest there be a quiz in Sunday school after service today. Right? No? Okay, well, I'll tell you the parable, just in case you've forgotten. This is referred to as the parable of the 10 virgins. Now, let's just clear up the virgin thing right off the bat so you can focus, guys. I want you to look at me. A little different context back in the day. Let us think of them as maidens, women who are not married yet, okay? Let's just leave it at that. And so in this parable, in fact, I'm just going to use that word, maidens. So Jesus says to us, at that time, the kingdom of heaven will be like 10 maidens who took their lamps and went out to meet the bridegroom. He says, the foolish ones took their lamps, but did not take any oil with them. The wise ones, however, took oils in jars along with their lamps. The bridegroom was a long time in coming, and they all became drowsy and fell asleep. At midnight, the cry rang out, "Here's the bridegroom. Come out to meet him." Then all the maidens woke up and trimmed their lamps. The foolish ones said to the wise, "Give us some of your oil. Our lamps are going out." "No," they replied, "there may not be enough for both of us and you. Instead, go to those who sell oil and buy some for yourselves." But while they were on their way to buy the oil, the bridegroom arrived. The maidens who were ready went in with him to the wedding banquet, and the door was shut. Later, the others also came. "Lord, Lord," they said, "open the door for us." But he replied, "Truly I tell you, I don't know you. Therefore keep watch, because you do not know the day or the hour." Now, perhaps this is a wedding story. Or perhaps there's a larger message here for us that is transcendent of women and men. So let's break this down for a moment. What if Jesus is speaking to us of 5 foolish or unconscious persons who did not have enough consciousness, oil, to keep their lamps burning, to stay present, to stay awake, to stay aware. And so they miss this present moment. They miss what is going on because instead of having developed the consciousness to attend the enlightenment, the wedding feast, they have missed that. Contrast that with the 5 who stay conscious and awake and aware. They are invited into the experience. Now, I believe that all of the teachings, all of these parables, and in fact the sum total of the Bible, is a study of consciousness. You can read it at many levels. So let's look at this. So often, we're like all of the characters in these stories, actually. But how often do we say, "I want what I want. I want life to be this way. I want to experience joy. I want to experience abundance. I want to experience every good thing. That's what I want. How do I get there quickly?" And so we say, we have a secret. Watch this DVD. and you watch the DVD, and instantly your life is transformed, never to be the same again. Because it's just that easy, isn't it? Now, I like to make fun of The Secret, although I admire The Secret, because it is an entree into a worldview. And it's the appetizer, I hope, that then says, let me taste some more of the meal. But you see, this idea, this is that quick fix mentality. So I always intrigued, we do a 4-week basic principles of spiritual living. Throw in a little workshop at the end of it. And at the end of that, people are like, yeah, this is good. This is really good. But some of the same things are still in my life. You know, I've been thinking a certain way for 30, 40, 50 years, and now I've spent 4 weeks affirming, and I don't understand why my lamp went out. Let me have some of your oil so that I can attend the party. So what if this is not a story about lamps, but rather a story of consciousness? Now, I do say you're going to meet some of our new practitioners or our existing practitioners a little bit later. And there is a place for borrowing people's faith until we create our own. It's a wonderful thing to have guides who have worked through their own stuff and who are aware of the living presence within them and are knowing and proclaiming and announcing that truth. But sometimes we want to go to them and say, please, will you manifest my good for me? Again, people we know, not necessarily anyone sitting in the room, right? I'm going to make this prayer request, and they can handle that consciousness thing. And then we wonder, what happened? So this story says you must carry with you the consciousness, and then you must be awake, and you must be alert, and you must be aware. Arvel sings of this beautiful blue heron. And you see, there's a passage in the Bible that says to wait upon the Lord. Now, to wait is an active state of consciousness, and the Lord is helpful. Always when you hear the Lord, it's helpful for me to metaphysically interpret that as the law. Law, let us in. Law says the door's the door is shut. You don't get to come in, not because the universe is punishing you, because we don't have the consciousness to open the door. This is the most annoying part of this teaching, isn't it? Anybody feeling annoyed right now? Go ahead, right? Because it's not, in some ways, when I was a form or whatever I was, there was some comfort in having a devil. I didn't have to take responsibility for my life. There was a devil. Who can argue with the devil, right? But oh, no, I say unto you, my friends, there is a law of life operating upon our consciousness, bringing forth reality that is reflective of our consciousness. Now, this is not a good or bad thing. It just is what is so. And so if we are like those foolish women who didn't think to fill their soul with the warmth of life, then the experience of the light going out is not a punishment, it's just the natural logical consequence. But those who carry their oil with them, who have deepened into the awareness of who they are, of this divine presence seeking its revelation, then when the moment comes, they are awake, they are alert, they are aware. When opportunity shows up, we can answer the door. You see, the other ones were off trying to find some oil. It may or may not have been on sale, I don't know, but they were still trying to find it. So the opportunity knocked and they're at the shop. You ever feel like that? Don't you love it how I interpret what Jesus was saying to us? But here's my opinion, right? But you see, it makes sense. This makes sense to us. That our goal is to stay awake. Our goal is to stay aware. All of the teachers have said there's a transcendent reality. Eckhart Tolle says, when we get into that reactive mind, or we get into that future mind, or we start projecting what is going on instead of being with what is, we miss what is. Now, I'm here to tell you, my friends, I would love to tell you that once you learn these principles of science of mind and you practice them perfectly, your life is going to be so blissful, so rich, so thin, so tall. Okay? I mean, it's just the whole package, right? And if you're not there, you're obviously not perfected your consciousness yet, right? So let us feel bad about that. That's what I'd like to tell you, but it's not true. Life is more transcendent than that. Spiritual awareness helps us to understand that, as I love what Eckhart Tolle says, he says, these parables are not about the end of the world, but about the end of psychological time, as we've talked about, of reactive mind. They point to the transcendence of the egoic mind and the possibility of living in an entirely new state of consciousness. So in that state of consciousness where we are recognizing and aware of the presence of the One in all things, we are less impressed or distracted by what is coming forth. We're no longer into that place of naming it as good and naming it as bad. Sometimes what we find is that in the broken places is where we find truth. I was reminded of a letter that was written many years ago. Seems appropriate for Memorial Day. It was written by an unknown Confederate soldier in 1862, height of the Civil War. And it's called A Creed for Those Who Have Suffered. Listen to these powerful words. I ask God for strength that I might achieve. I was made weak that I might learn humbly to obey. I ask for health that I might do greater things. I was given infirmity that I might do better things. I ask for riches that I might be happy. I was given poverty that I might be wise. I ask for power that I might have the praise of men. I was given weakness that I might feel the need of God. I ask for all things that I might enjoy life. I was given life that I might enjoy all things. I got nothing that I asked for, but everything that I had hoped for. Almost despite myself, my unspoken prayers were answered. I am among all men most richly blessed. Now, I know I'm going to get in trouble with the Science of Mind police for telling you this. But you see, what I know is that our lives are beautiful and perfect and whole in every moment. That's why we speak every Sunday about we celebrate times of joy and triumph as well as extend compassion in times of sorrow and loss. The fullness of being human is transcendent of the experience as we label it today. And as we become more spiritually aware, as we become more spiritually enlivened, as we become more awake, we seize the opportunity that lies in front of us in every moment. Last week I spoke about my friend Lori, who chose to end her own life. And I've come to peace with the fact that I will never be able to make sense of this. It is one of those mysteries that gets to be a mystery because it makes no sense. Young, vibrant, 42 years old, yoga instructor, lovely, wonderful person. Of all the people in my life that I think might do such a thing, she would have been on the lower part of that list. And yet, she chose to end her life. She chose also to ask me to do the service in a note that she left behind. Now, just for the record, if you ever want to piss me off, that's a good way. Kind of like, what the heck, Lori? You could ask me to do your service, but you couldn't pick up the phone and have a conversation? What's that about? But then I became more transcendent. Because the great gift of ministry is you get to do your work and you get to do it in public. And so I knew I got to go serve a community in a way that I would just as soon not have. You see, here's the thing about this spiritual reality that we're seeking to embrace. We don't always get to control the conditions in which we choose to show up in. And the real test of our spirituality is not how are things when they're going well. You know, anybody can be spiritually enlightened when you win the lottery. Right? But it is in the darkness and in the depth that we discover who we are. So I've been in this question of what would you have me say? We had a group of people, about 150 people that showed up for the service in a room that seats about 100, from best I can tell, of just mournful, tragic loss. Everybody asking the same question. What could I have done differently? Because that is the thing about suicide, more so than any other death, any other way of dying, is there is an inherent tendency on those who are left behind to want to put it on ourselves that if we would have only, if we could have only, if we had known, we would have done something different. And what I got clarity on was, again, that I am not responsible for the choices other people make. I am, however, responsible for every choice that I make. And I don't know about you, but I sometimes get that confused. I have been known in moments of lower enlightenment to assign what was going on with me to somebody other than me. And likewise, I have been known from time to time to want to take responsibility for the choices that you make. And this, let me say, you make some stupid choices. And somehow if I had been a better something or other, you would have made a different choice. How silly is that? Now that's trying to be a foolish person with your lamp. Right? So I got to this awareness, and part of what I got to experience is, once again, that profound commitment that I made when I chose the path of ministry. I didn't know how profound the choice was I made at the time, or I probably wouldn't have made it. But you see, we get to show up as the loving, living presence of the divine in the midst of chaos, in the midst of pain, in the midst of that which appears to be imperfect. And so I got to witness, and I got very clear why Lori wanted me to do this, because Lori and I shared a very sick and twisted sense of humor, among other things. And so she wants me to do this because I will bring what I bring to the party. And so I got to experience how we shifted as community out of this just heartfelt loss to a new perspective, a new possibility, a new way of seeing this. And it all comes back to this basic idea. None of us know how long our days are. None of us know what's going on with another person. So this is the moment to tell each other that we love each other. This is the moment to forgive. This is the moment to do what we get to do because we don't know what the next moment is. Now, I love my friend Lori. I can't say I support her choice, but I recognize her choice. And I've also gotten to release myself that there wasn't anything I could have done, that there wasn't anything anyone else could have done. She was very clear, even in her letter that she left, nobody could have done anything different. And so I got to come to peace with the fact that sometimes people make choices that we don't like. Will I love her? And will I use this yet again as a moment for transcendence? Can I transcend my pain? Can I transcend my loss? Can I transcend this seeming tragedy to find peace, to find love, to find joy? And my friends, I tell you that the place we find that is in the stillness of the presence. This is why when we refer to it as spiritual practice, the emphasis is not on the spiritual, it is on the practice. The ongoingness of our spiritual practice. Because that is how we deepen the well. That is how we build the oil. I like what Stephen Covey said about how we want to build an emotional bank account so that when things get rough, we have something to draw from. We want to build a consciousness of the stillness of spirit so that when things appear to be off, we can move into that awareness that the masters have taught us that says there's a transcendent reality. Let your heart not be troubled, neither be afraid. Be at peace. It's a beautiful thing. We don't always get to have our lives be exactly the way we want them. I'm sorry to break this news to you. I wish somebody would have told you this before today. Let me be the one to tell you. However, like that beautiful soldier, when we stop looking at the outer, we can find the inner. When we stop asking the divine to give it to us the way we want, and we start to realize that life is beautiful and pure and holy and perfect, then we experience this higher dimension, this kingdom of heaven, if you will. There is a way of being in the world that allows us to experience joy and wonder, fullness of life, even in our grief, even in our sadness, even when life is not showing up the way we would want it to. And it is in that place that we open our hearts to compassion, to forgiveness, to joy. My friend Lori loved to practice random acts of kindness. What an amazing spiritual practice. And so one of the tributes to her was a group of whoever wanted to went that morning before the service to practice random acts of kindness. You see, we can transcend our pain by doing good. We can transcend our littleness by being of service. We can extend our possibility when we recognize that part of us that's connected to the infinite, and by not looking at what that part of us that is finite. I don't know what's going on in your life today. I don't know whether you're labeling it good or whether you're labeling it bad. I don't know that some of you are having breakthroughs and some of you are having breakdowns. I'm going to take a shot that some of it both is going on today. It's a big room, right? But what I do know is that there is a living, loving presence. The Master spoke of it as this water that if we drink of it, we never thirst. It is a spiritual reality, and it comes through our spiritual practice, through practicing being present in the now, through being still in the living presence. So whatever's going on for you today, just allow this to be a new moment of creation and possibility. Let us pray. As we enter into that spiritual dimension, that consciousness of the allness of the One, everywhere present, always available, there is a divine presence that is revealing itself. That the source and substance of life is the essence. Dr. Holmes would say there is one life, and that life is my life now. It is perfect. It is beautiful. And so we enter into that state of awareness that needs nothing to change, nothing to be different. We sense and feel and know the perfection of life right here and right now. Our hearts are open to the presence of divine love. Our minds are open to divine wisdom. We throw open the very portal of our soul to know our oneness, our unity with this one life. And so I simply breathe into this awareness as I speak this word of truth for each of us gathered here. As I recognize the presence of wholeness. And I know that that wholeness reveals itself as health, as well-being, as vitality. As I recognize and announce the presence of divine love. And I know that as we embrace that divine love, we fully and freely forgive ourselves and others. We step into the awareness of that transcendent reality. We choose to love ourselves. We choose to forgive ourselves. We choose to release any limiting ideas that we may have carried. And we allow our relationship to be healed and transformed through the power of this love. In this moment, I am recognizing and knowing that we are abundant beings. For we are one with the source of all. And so we choose to live prosperous, dynamic lives, giving our gifts to the world and allowing the world to give its gift to us. We participate in a divine flow. And I'm knowing that if there's a burden on your heart this day, this is a holy and sacred place in which to release that which no longer serves and to accept the greater possibility, the bigger life that is seeking its expression through us. How good it is to know this truth. How grateful I am to speak these words. How grateful I am to know how blessed I am, how blessed we are. And so from that place of thanksgiving, I'm simply giving thanks for the many blessings as we extend a blessing first to this spiritual community. For I know that we have been brought together by divine appointment for the revelation of truth, and so we listen deeply to Spirit's guidance as we move forward to fulfill our mission, to be a bright light in the world. We extend a blessing to our brothers and sisters around the planet and to the planet itself. We're holding a high vision for a world that works for everyone, for a planet at peace, with goodwill towards all. And as always, we bless all paths. We bless all teachers, all ministers, teachers, priests and rabbis of every faith. For we know there are many pathways to divine understanding. And therefore we honor and celebrate them all. How good it is to stand in the presence of the divine. To be still in the presence of love. To breathe into the place of peace. This is our divine inheritance. Let us enter into it. Let us welcome it. Let us name it good and very good. In joy and gratitude, then, I'm simply releasing this word into that law of mind, knowing that it is already so. As together we say, and so it is.